It's no accident that your eyes landed here right now. Out of all the noise, all the endless scroll, this message pressed itself into your field. That's not random. That's resonance. You've crossed a threshold without realizing it, and this is the first signal of it. Think about it. How many times have you felt like you were waiting for something invisible to finally catch up to you? Like your future self was trying to send you a letter, but it kept getting lost in the mail. That tug you felt, that restlessness, it was this moment pulling you closer. I want you to hear me. You're not late. You're not behind. The very fact that you're here proves that your timeline is bending, preparing to align in ways your old self couldn't calculate. What you thought was delay was actually arrangement. Here's the paradox. We're taught to believe reality unfolds in straight lines. Cause, effect, result. But what if it's not a line at all? What if it's more like a set of stations on a dial, each one already broadcasting, waiting for you to tune in? The signal has always been there. The only question is whether your field has reached the right frequency to catch it. And right now, you are catching it. That's why this message is hitting your nervous system differently than just another video. It's not information, it's recognition. By the time we finish, you'll understand why the future has been calling you, why your longing was never just frustration, but the echo of another station already vibrating with your name on it. But first, we need to pull back the curtain on the mechanism itself. Let's get precise. Reality isn't a single stream unfolding. It's a network of broadcasts, like invisible radio stations humming all around you. Each station is already complete. Each one has its own storyline, its own soundtrack, its own outcomes. You're not creating them from scratch. They exist in parallel, playing whether you notice them or not. Your experience, what you call your life, is simply the one you're tuned into. The dial rests on a certain frequency, and everything that matches it floods into your perception. The people you meet, the opportunities that find you, the obstacles that repeat, they're not accidents. They're echoes of the station your identity has been broadcasting. Here's the trap. Most people believe they're waiting for reality to change before they feel different. They wait for the job before they feel successful. They wait for the love before they feel chosen. They wait for the sign before they trust. But in the language of the field, it doesn't work that way. The station doesn't change just because you're frustrated. It changes when you shift your own signal. Think of it like this. If you're tuned into a station that plays static and commercials, no amount of wishing will suddenly make a symphony break through. You have to rotate the dial. You have to move yourself. And the dial is not turned by force of will alone. It's turned by what you embody, what you regulate in your nervous system, what you claim as your identity. When you feel the mismatch in your life, the text that doesn't come, the bill that shocks your chest, the silence that feels unbearable, that's not proof that the universe has abandoned you. It's proof that your current frequency is out of sync with the broadcast you know deep down belongs to you. And this is where the real pivot happens. Once you realize you're not stuck in a single storyline, the entire weight of "I'm late" falls away. You're not late to anything. You're simply tuned to a station that doesn't yet hold the music you were meant to hear. The question is, how do you move the dial? How do you stop listening to the static and land on the station where your future is already alive? That's the myth almost everyone gets wrong. And in the next part, I'm going to show you exactly why the common advice about waiting or forcing blocks you from tuning at all. There's a myth that keeps more people stuck than anything else. It goes like this. Once reality shows me the evidence, then I'll believe. Once I see the proof, then I'll feel safe. But let's be clear. That's the opposite of how the field operates. Waiting for reality to move first is like sitting with your radio turned off, demanding that the music should play before you even bother tuning in. It's backwards. Let's make this real. Imagine you've sent a message, maybe to someone you care about, maybe to someone you secretly hope will choose you. And then you're staring at your phone, waiting for the reply. Every minute feels like an eternity. You keep checking, refreshing, unlocking the screen. Your nervous system is on fire. The silence doesn't feel neutral, it feels like rejection. That moment is the clearest example of what happens when you're tuned to the wrong station. Because here's the truth. Your body isn't waiting for the text. It's waiting for the feeling it thinks the text will give you. Relief, connection, proof that you're wanted. But instead of broadcasting connection, your frequency is broadcasting lack. Every glance at the screen is like sending out a signal of absence. And what happens when you stay tuned to a station of absence? You amplify the static. This is why so many people feel trapped in repeating loops. They believe they're manifesting, but really they're begging the field to play a song while refusing to turn the dial. That's not manifestation, that's fixation. Now notice something. If in that exact moment of silence, you shifted your state, not pretending, not forcing, but genuinely regulating the heat in your chest, breathing into your body until you broadcast safety, the field would respond differently. Because safety carries a frequency that draws different timelines. It's like finally tuning past the static and hearing music begin to play. The myth we just shattered is this: you don't wait for the reply to feel chosen. You choose yourself first. The broadcast adjusts after. And here's where the real initiation begins. If choosing yourself is what changes the station, then nervous system coherence is the hidden dial you've been ignoring. Notice how in every moment of frustration, your body reacts before your mind does. The chest tightens, the throat closes, the stomach sinks. That's not random. That's your nervous system broadcasting its current station. And here's the pivot. The field doesn't respond to the words you say. It responds to the signal your body emits. Think of it like this. Your nervous system is the antenna. If the antenna is bent, shaky, or filled with static, the broadcast you receive will always be distorted. You may think you're asking for abundance, but if your body is stuck in survival mode, the only station you're tuned to is urgency and fear. This is why nervous system regulation is not optional. It's the hidden entry point into coherence. Without safety, you can't hold the frequency long enough for the field to stabilize around it. Safety is what locks the dial in place. Let's break it down. Imagine two versions of you. One is caught in panic, heart racing, breath shallow. The other is grounded, heart steady, exhale long. Both versions may say the exact same words: I am chosen, I am safe, I am ready. But only one of them will actually shift the station. Why? Because only one has the nervous system stability to carry the signal consistently. The field can't tune into chaos. It needs coherence. Here's a simple way to practice. Right now, place one hand on your chest, one hand on your lower belly. Close your eyes for just a moment. Inhale slowly through your nose, feeling the lower hand rise before the upper hand. Then exhale through your mouth, twice as long as the inhale, letting both hands soften into your body. Do this 3 times. It takes less than 45 seconds, but it resets the antenna. It tells your system, I am safe to receive. What changes everything is that this isn't just a breathing trick, it's a broadcast. Every time you regulate, you're teaching the field to recognize a different signal. You're no longer shouting static, you're humming a steady tone that can carry a timeline into your orbit. So the next time you feel yourself caught in that loop of waiting or fighting or grasping, pause. Don't force the field. Don't beg for proof. Reset the antenna. Let your body shift before your story does. Because once you discover how safety unlocks the dial, the next revelation will shatter another illusion, that being in the right state is enough. Let's be precise now. Regulation can shift your state in the moment, but if you only ever manage states, you'll keep circling back to the same static. Because a state is temporary. It rises, it falls, it dissolves. Identity, on the other hand, is the frequency you live from. It's the station you keep returning to without even trying. Think about it. You can breathe, calm yourself, feel open for a moment, and then one unexpected bill arrives, or a message doesn't land, and you collapse right back into panic. Why? Because the core broadcast hasn't changed. You tuned the dial for a few minutes, but your hand let go, and it slid right back to the old familiar station. This is why people say affirmations for months with no result. The words never pierce the static because deep down, they still are the old identity. They may repeat, I am abundant, but if their nervous system identity is still, I am unsafe, the field listens to that, not the script. Here's the truth. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you are. That's why identity work is not cosmetic. It's not about pretending to be confident or abundant. It's about dissolving the fracture between who you say you are and what your body broadcasts when no one is watching. Identity is the station you live inside of. If your identity is the one always waiting, always left behind, then every scenario bends to confirm that. But when your identity becomes the one who is already chosen, already safe, already aligned, the entire spectrum of broadcasts rearranges to meet you. This is the pivot most people miss. They chase temporary highs, trying to maintain a state of excitement, passion, or certainty. But life inevitably throws moments of uncertainty, and then the state collapses. Identity doesn't collapse. Identity holds. It's the backbone of your frequency. And this is where the real expansion begins. Because if identity is the true broadcast, Then what does that mean for timelines? If each identity locks you into a station, then every version of you is already living on a timeline that fits that broadcast. Which means, the moment you shift identity, you don't just feel different. You land on a different station altogether, a new reality. I'll show you exactly how your chosen identity selects the timeline you step into, and why every alternate version of you is already alive waiting for your signal. Here's where it gets even more radical. Every identity you've ever imagined, the confident one, the abundant one, the rejected one, the powerful one, already exists as a timeline playing on its own station. You don't have to invent them. You only have to decide which one you'll tune into long enough to stabilize it. Think of it like walking through a city filled with hundreds of radio towers. Each tower broadcasts a different life story. When your identity locks onto one tower, every signal around you starts to match it. The people you meet, the bills that appear, even the words strangers say to you, all of it is confirmation of the tower you're tuned into. Let's take a familiar example. Money pressure. Imagine opening a bill you weren't prepared for. Your stomach drops, heat floods your face, maybe your chest feels like it's caving in. Instantly, your body broadcasts the identity of the one who is never safe, never supported. And like clockwork, that station pulls in echoes of the same story. Late fees, urgent calls, more reminders of lack. Now, on another station, there's a version of you who opens the exact same bill and doesn't collapse. That version feels the surge but breathes, grounds, and responds from the identity of the one who is always resourced. And because that's the broadcast, the field starts matching it. Unexpected credits, supportive conversations, opportunities that weren't visible before. It's not that the bill disappears. It's that your identity tunes you to the timeline where solutions already exist. This is what most people don't see. Timelines aren't earned by suffering your way through them. They're selected by identity. And identity is not about pretending, it's about choosing. Each time you regulate and say, I know who I am, you're clicking into a different tower, and the broadcast around you reorganizes. But here's the twist. Once you realize you can move across timelines, the temptation is to try to control them, to force reality to switch immediately. That's where people fall into the trap of grasping. They try to micromanage the dial instead of letting identity carry it naturally. And that's why we need a protocol. Something simple, repeatable, embodied. Not just lofty ideas, but actual anchors you can use to keep tuning to the tower that belongs to you. Because if identity is the signal, the protocol is how you hold it long enough for the field to lock in. Now that you see identity as the true broadcast, the question becomes, how do you actually hold it long enough for reality to rearrange? Because it's one thing to glimpse the station, it's another to stabilize there until the music becomes your normal soundtrack. I want to give you a simple protocol, not a rigid checklist, but a set of anchors that help you retune whenever you feel the static trying to drag you back. These are not about pretending. They are about embodiment, about teaching your nervous system to recognize the new signal as home. First anchor, breath reset. This is the same practice we touched earlier, but with a twist. Instead of only calming yourself, pair the exhale with a phrase that reflects your chosen identity. For example, hand on heart, exhale slowly, and whisper, I am already chosen. The breath settles your system, and the phrase imprints identity into the body, not just words in the head, but vibration in the chest. Second anchor, future embodiment cue. Choose one tiny action your future self would already do and bring it into today. Maybe it's how you stand when you walk into a room. Maybe it's how you sip your coffee slowly instead of rushing. Maybe it's finally sending that application with steadiness instead of dread. Small actions become proof points to your nervous system. This is who I am now. Third anchor, timeline rehearsal. Close your eyes and imagine turning the dial of an old radio. Feel the click as it moves past static into a clearer signal. Then, without forcing images, let yourself sense. How does the station of already safe, already abundant sound in your body? What's the rhythm? What's the tone? Hold that feeling for 30 seconds. This isn't visualization for fantasy. It's practice tuning the antenna. Fourth anchor, ritualized declaration. The field responds when you claim your broadcast out loud. This is why communities amplify timelines, because multiple voices declaring identity create coherence. And I want to invite you into that right now. In the comments, write, I am already living my future. Let that declaration be registered not just on a screen, but in the quantum field that hears you. These anchors work because they bypass endless thinking and go straight to signal. They stabilize you on the station long enough for the field to respond, not once, but repeatedly. And yet, even with these tools, there are traps, subtle sabotages that pull you back into urgency, split focus, or control. That's what we need to name next, because the moment you can see them clearly, you'll stop falling for them. Even with the strongest protocol, there are forces that can pull you back into static before you realize what's happening. These aren't failures. They're familiar habits of identity trying to reassert themselves. Once you recognize them, you stop mistaking them for truth and start seeing them as tests. The first trap is urgency. When the nervous system spikes and you feel like you must solve everything right now, you've slipped back onto the old station. Urgency tells you the field is late, the answer is missing, and you have to scramble to catch up. But urgency isn't a message from the future. It's a replay from the past. Whenever urgency rises, pause and ask, what station am I tuned to? Then use breath to slow the dial. Urgency collapses timelines. Coherence expands them. The second trap is split signals. This happens when you say one thing but broadcast another. For example, you affirm, I am abundant, while your body tightens every time you check your account. Or you declare, I am loved, while scrolling and comparing yourself with others. The field doesn't respond to words. It responds to the dominant signal. Split signals create interference, like trying to listen to two stations at once. The solution isn't perfection, it's alignment. Notice the mismatch, regulate, and bring body and voice back into coherence. The third trap is over-control. This is when you try to force the field into giving you results on your timeline. You micromanage every outcome, analyze every silence, dissect every delay. But over-control is like gripping the dial so hard that it never actually moves. The tighter you hold, the more static you create. The antidote is surrender, not as weakness, but as precision. When you let the identity itself be the dial, you don't have to chase the outcome. The outcome tunes itself. What changes everything is realizing these traps aren't here to punish you. They're here to test whether your identity is stable enough to hold the new frequency. Each time you pass the test, you lock the station tighter. Each time you recognize the trap, you grow less reactive and more coherent. So instead of fighting urgency, judging split signals, or shaming over-control, use them as reminders. I'm tuning again. Every slip becomes a practice. Every test becomes proof. And the more you practice, the more the broadcast weaves itself into daily life, not just in big moments, but in the smallest gestures. And that's what we're about to explore. How the station follows you into walking, eating, conversations, and choices. Here's what most people miss. The frequency you hold doesn't only matter in the big moments of manifestation, the job interview, the launch, the first date. It matters in the way you live the tiny spaces in between. The field isn't only listening when you're asking for something, it's listening all the time. Every step, every glance, every micro-choice is part of your broadcast. That means integration is not about adding a new ritual on top of your day. It's about infusing the ordinary with coherence. When you walk down the street, notice the pace of your steps. Are you rushing, chest tight, shoulders forward? Or can you soften, breathe, let your body move as if you already belong in the future that's calling you? Each step becomes a transmission. When you eat, notice how you receive. Do you inhale food like you're starving, barely present? Or do you let each bite be a signal of abundance, proof that you are resourced, chosen, alive? Even something as simple as sipping water can become a broadcast. I am safe. I am provided for. Conversations, too, are tuning forks. When someone asks how you are, do you default to stress, complaint, lack? Or do you breathe, regulate, and answer from the identity of the one who already knows they're supported? You don't have to pretend everything is perfect, but the tone you carry shifts the field. The frequency of your voice carries the future into the present. This is how coherence becomes natural, not as a performance, not as something fragile, but as the way you live when no one is watching. That's when the field really begins to trust your signal. It recognizes this identity is steady, this broadcast is real, and then the outer world bends faster. Here's the beauty. Once you embed coherence into the smallest actions, the bigger domains of life stop feeling impossible. They start opening almost by accident. Relationships soften, creativity flows, health stabilizes. But that's the next layer we need to enter. Because the broadcast doesn't just change your inner world, it changes entire dimensions of your outer reality. And when you see how the same station that shifts your breath can also shift love, purpose, and destiny, everything expands. When the station shifts inside of you, it doesn't stay contained. The broadcast seeps into every domain of your life, and the remarkable thing is, you won't even notice it at first. It shows up in subtle ways. A conversation feels lighter, an idea comes easier, your body recovers faster. That's the field echoing back your new signal. Let's start with relationships. Every connection you have is like a duet between broadcasts. If your station is still playing fear or scarcity, even the kindest partner will feel distant. But when your identity stabilizes as the one who is already chosen, you stop pulling for proof. You stop testing love with desperation. Instead, you broadcast safety, and love feels drawn to you, not because you're trying, but because your field finally harmonizes with it. Now look at creativity. Everyone knows the pain of staring at a blank page, a stalled canvas, or an idea that just won't land. Creative block feels personal, but it's actually a broadcast issue. When the dial is set to, "I must get this right," static floods in. Inspiration can't pass through static. But when your identity shifts to, "I am the one who receives freely," the block melts. Ideas flow, words appear, and what felt impossible suddenly feels inevitable. The radio tower of creativity never stopped broadcasting. You just weren't tuned to it. Health follows the same principle. When your identity is the one who is broken, fragile, unsafe, the body listens. Symptoms flare, tension builds, healing stalls. But the moment you broadcast coherence, through breath, through choice, through embodiment, the body receives a new station, the one where restoration is already playing. It's not magic, it's resonance. Cells respond to signal, and perhaps the deepest domain, life purpose. Many people chase it like a destination, desperate to figure it out. But purpose isn't a puzzle to solve. It's a broadcast you stabilize into. When you live from the identity of alignment, your actions naturally flow toward the expression that matches it. Purpose reveals itself when the station is clear enough to carry it. So notice, the same principles that regulate a breath can shift entire destinies. The same station that turns a waiting text into self-recognition can turn a career into calling. And yet, there's an even deeper layer. Beyond relationships, beyond creativity, beyond health, there's the recognition that this broadcast was never random, that the station you're tuning into is not something you invented, but something orchestrated. We step into that truth, the spiritual dimension where surrender becomes the most powerful broadcast of all. Up until now, we've explored the mechanics of tuning, identity, nervous system, coherence, integration. But there's a deeper layer, one that dissolves the illusion that you're doing all of this alone. The moment you truly feel it, something inside you relaxes. You realize the station you're tuning into was never random. It was waiting for you. Think of it this way. When you find a song on the radio that moves you, you didn't create the song in that moment. It was already written, already recorded, already playing. All you did was align your dial to receive it. The same is true of your destiny. It's not a fragile dream that might collapse if you miss a step. It's a broadcast that has been calling your name since before you were aware of it. And here's the paradox. The more you try to control it, the more static you create. The more you surrender into trust, the clearer the music becomes. Surrender isn't weakness here. It's alignment. It's the act of saying, I don't have to make the signal exist. I only have to let myself receive it. That's where true power lives. Because when you surrender, your nervous system shifts from fight into flow. Your field expands. You stop gripping for answers and start resonating with them. It's as if the universe has been leaning toward you the entire time, waiting for you to soften enough to hear. And here's what's even more mysterious. Sometimes the static itself was part of the orchestration. The delays, the silence, the rejections, they weren't evidence of absence. They were part of the tuning process, sharpening your antenna, preparing your body to hold the real station when it came. Without those detours, you wouldn't have the stability to stand in the signal now. So when you feel that ache, that longing, that sense of being pulled into something bigger, trust it. That's not fantasy. That's recognition. It's your spirit remembering the broadcast that belongs to it. And this is why community matters too. When you surround yourself with others tuned to coherence, your signal strengthens. Frequencies amplify when they resonate together. That's why you being here right now is not only for you, it's for everyone whose lives shift because you dared to stabilize a new broadcast. But we need to close the circle, because now that you see the mechanics, the protocols, the traps, the expansion, and the orchestration, the final step is claiming it. Anchoring the metaphor so deeply into your body that the field can't ignore it. And that's exactly what we'll do in the final part. Take a breath with me. After everything we've explored, let's return to the image we began with, the stations already playing all around you, each one filled with its own music, its own story, its own destiny. None of them are missing. None of them need to be built from scratch. They're here, right now. The only question is, which one will you choose to tune into? You've seen now that identity is the dial, coherence is the antenna, and surrender is the power that clears the static. You've felt how even the smallest actions, how you walk, how you breathe, how you answer the phone, are broadcasts, signals telling the field who you believe yourself to be. And you've glimpsed how those signals don't just shift your inner world, they ripple into relationships, creativity, health, and purpose. But more than anything, you've remembered something your old self had almost forgotten. You are not behind. You are not late. The very fact that you're here proves the broadcast has already begun. The song you've been aching to hear has been playing all along, quietly waiting for you to turn the dial and finally let it flood through your speakers. So as you leave this message, let it echo in your chest. You were chosen for this moment. This isn't just content. It's a transmission, a reminder that your future is not far away. It's already alive, already vibrating, already tuned to your name. All you have to do is listen. All you have to do is keep breathing, keep claiming, keep allowing the music to become your new normal. And when the static tries to return, as it will, remember, you don't have to fight it. You only have to move the dial. Now the field is listening. What will you broadcast?